And welcome back. We want to welcome from Pacific Financial Planners, Jerry Slusowicz, to the program. Thanks for joining us again.
Michael, great to see you. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you. And we're spending money on Christmas gifts. We're dipping into savings sometimes a little bit. We're using credit cards this time of year. But this time is also a good time to review kind of where we are financially in the world, right? In terms of our savings, in terms of our investment portfolios, and a good time to review.
Yeah, Michael, I call it having a year-end financial review. You've got to do an annual review. You know, can you imagine being 75, 80 and, you know, full of health, but no money at all and, you know, flat broke? It's just not a good life. So we understand going to the doctor once a year and having your annual checkup. And we have specialists and all that other sort of stuff for, you know, ailments. It's the same with your money. It's very important because you don't want to run out. You know, you don't want to overspend on the holidays. So it's important to get that year-end financial review or at least some point in time plan that next year, because it's like an annual physical. It's your financial physical.
And what are some of the things that we should be looking at in annual physical? Like doctor says we're going to look at ABC. What are some of the things that you have to kind of go into on that annual?
Well, what I've done is I made this simple graph. I know we have a slide on that. And basically, it's the old Ben Franklin T that had pros and cons of how to make a decision. Well, I put income versus expenses, and then you have your assets on the bottom. So as long as your income is greater than your expenses, you're in great shape. But as soon as your expenses get greater than your income, and there's this thing called inflation that we've seen over the last few years. So when your costs get higher and higher and higher, now you're dipping into your assets, into your savings, and that draw rate to supplement your income will determine how long you have to run out of money. So it's really important that people kind of understand where their income is, what their expenses are, and what their spending rate on the assets are, because that's going to tell you your overall financial health.
And if you're planning your retirement, you're building through the years. Like I'm employed, I'm building, but I can't expect that kind of same revenue that I'm bringing in every year to always be there, right? When I retire, now I'm going to start drawing down. So how do you sit down with folks and say, okay, here's when you can retire, here's what you can expect in terms of your drawdown, and here's what the future looks like for you guys? Exactly,
Michael. I mean, the strategy when you're younger and working, you know, like us right now, versus when you're retired is completely different. Because once you start spending down your assets, it's kind of like climbing Mount Everest. You know, Sir Edmund Hillary wasn't the first one up there. He was the first one to make it back down. Coming down, if you've ever climbed a mountain or, you know, Whitney or any of these things, done the Muir Trail, is scary because there's cliffs out there. So what you've got to make sure is that you don't overspend on the downside. So you want your investments that pay more dividends, interest, and income. First off, they're more conservative, but secondly, rather than drawing off a growth asset that sometimes doesn't grow. I mean, we're going to have periods of time like during COVID or 2022 or after 9/11, you know, the financial crisis of 2007, 2009, where the markets don't go up for maybe a year or two. And if you're drawing on a falling market, you can run out of money much quicker.
Now, also, at the end of the year is the time for people to look ahead to, hey, what's coming next year? Where should I be putting my money? Are there going to be changes? And it's very unpredictable in terms of a new administration. You know, hey, are we talking about tariffs? Is inflation going to go crazy? Are we talking about those kinds of things? How do you manage those expectations when your folks come to you and say, what do I do with my money? Should I cash out?
Yeah, you don't want to cash out. That's kind of the thing.
I know at least that much.
But yeah, you know, the new administration, you could reposition more towards U.S. stuff, smaller companies, the U.S.-based companies, things like that. Global companies with tariffs, I would stay away. If you've got a lot of things overseas, emerging markets, you know, Europe, Asia, things like that, you might want to watch those very closely. President Trump was the president for 4 years. A lot of people seem to forget that. He did put tariffs on in that period of time. And we had zero exposure to global markets when he started putting the tariffs on in 2018. But they didn't create huge inflation. So I think that was just a scare tactic during the election. But we'll see. I mean, obviously it could create some problems, but I see the economy improving. He's going to deregulate things, which will help businesses. Interest rates, are coming down continually, and they will continue to come down next year. So that's your cost of money, your borrowing cost. So that makes things more affordable for buying houses, cars, boats, to finance it, which most of the world's in debt. Hopefully not our senior market listening today. Hopefully they're out of debt. But most of the world borrows and businesses borrow. So when the interest rates go down, it's all good. So I'm very optimistic about 2025.
And when you look at people's stuff like checking, savings, investment accounts, IRAs, and that kind of thing, a diversified portfolio is probably the safest hedge against inflation and a lot of things like that, right?
It is, but people don't know where to draw from first. And I'm going to tell you right now, misunderstanding volatility of the markets, having the markets go down, drawing against that, and then drawing from the wrong place. And there's no universal one hat fits all.
Right.
Some people should start drawing from their IRA after they retire, but before they're 73 and they need to take the required minimum distributions. Most people say, gosh, I don't have to take that money till I'm 73, so I'm going to wait. For some people, that's a mistake. You could make really good decisions. Your most flexibility happens between the day you retire and when you need to start drawing your RMD. Other people, they should draw from their checking savings first and leave that retirement account. So it comes down to that annual review because everybody's situation is a little different, Michael.
So people have a strategy to kind of protect what they have, kind of thing? Is that
it's important that you have a protected income strategy. People have strategies for investments, but when you retire, our listeners, they need to have a strategy from where they're going to draw their income. Obviously, Social Security is first and foremost. People that are already on there, there's nothing you can do about it if you've been on it a year. But when you draw from Social Security, if you're a married couple, there are over 512 combinations of when you should draw as a couple. Only one of them will give you the optimal way. Don't you think you ought to get that right? So, and people think, oh, Social Security, it's $2,000 a month. But you start multiplying that out, $2,000 a month times 12 times 2 people over 20 years, that's $1 million decision. It's not something you just go down there, okay, I'm going to sign up. You should talk to a financial consultant, get your annual review, and make sure you make the decisions properly to make sure you have a good income plan, including your base called Social Security.
Now, when you do these reviews with folks, what are some of the first things you sit down with people, and what are some of the first kind of questions most people ask you?
Well, I ask them to figure out what they spend every month, and people have no idea. But you can really look at your bank account because most things you either pay your credit card or checks out of your bank, and you can see what you had at the beginning of the year, what you had at the end of the year, and you can kind of determine how much you spent. And then, where are your sources of income? Social Security, do you have a pension? Do you have other sources, any business income, rental properties, things like that? And then what are your asset sizes? And then I ask them to bring their tax returns because you want to be tax efficient. One of the best ways is to pay less in taxes. You can have more income. It has nothing to do with picking the next Google or Microsoft. It has to do being tax efficient with your income. And people ask me maybe my experience and why me, but I've been doing this 37 years, been in the village here 30 years. I've got 0 complaints on my record. I can help.
That's a good record to have. What lifestyle adjustments do people need to consider when they go from I've had a regular job, I've had regular income, and now I'm going to retirement? Do you say, okay, well, this is a lifestyle, they say, this is a lifestyle I want to maintain, how can I do this, and how do you kind of go through that with folks?
Yeah, it's important, Michael. It's surprising how many people wait and they say, hey, I want to retire in February, and they come to see me now. It's 2 months from now. Gosh, you should be planning this a little bit further. I mean, people plan weddings at least a year in advance.
Give me some time.
Yeah, well, give yourself some time. The other one is knowing what your lifestyle is going to be and making sure, especially if you're a married couple, making sure you're on the same page. Well, here's what I want to do. I want to play golf every day, and oh no, I want to take my husband and we're going to do charity work in Miramar or something like that. You guys got to talk about what you want to do with your daily life in retirement, and then put a dollar value on it. How much is it going to cost?
Right.
Michael, let me ask you a quick question. Do you think you spend more money during the week or on the weekends?
Probably during the week.
Oh, really? Okay, most people spend more on the weekends because they have more time to spend money. So when you retire, it's a weekend all the time. So that's what happens.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I see people that they go from working where they're at work earning money to now they have all this free time and they start spending it off. So having that realistic, what's your daily life going to cost you? And I do help people figure that out and help them talk. And then once we figure out what their expenses are, where are you going to get the secure income that's going to pay for it that makes your assets last your lifetime?
Okay, when's the next time you're going to be here in the village talking to folks?
Well, we go dark in December, so I'll be back in January.
Back in January. So looking ahead to January. Next time you come in, we'll have some dates for folks to sit down and have a nice lunch with you, hang out, and talk about finances.
Typically, we have that financial forum second Thursday of the month.
Right. All right. Jerry Slusos from Pacific Financial Planners. Thanks again for joining us.
Hey, Michael, thanks for being here. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. All right, folks. When we folks from the Republican Club, and Bree's going to be here too. Stay with us.